We're live. It is 707-867-5309. Hopefully everyone's having a good night. It is Sunday night, so you're all getting prepared for next week. We've got to get up early again. Is it Sunday? I think it is. Um, we've got to get up early and go to go to school and stuff. Although pretty soon vacation's coming up, so if you have vacation days from work, that would be great. I personally don't because I don't have a job, but I have lots of work. So tonight we're going to talk about the thumbnail photo, which is very, very cool. First thing, what do you guys notice about the thumbnail photo? What's the first thing that jumps out at you? Hopefully you're going to say, Richard, that thing has a deck plate on it. What's going on there? Why does it have a deck plate on it? And why did the sleeves come all the way up to the top of the deck plate? That's what you should be asking yourself when you see that photo. So this was a B16A Honda, and this was run in a class where it was required, or that we had let's say we had favorable power to weight ratio in our favor if we would run a B16 block, because they know with a B18 block we're going to be able to have more displacement and make more power. But if you're stuck with a B16, then what can you do? You can't make nearly as much power. Except we can, because we can take our B16 block and we can make it into a B18 by changing the deck height, by having a deck plate, and then resleeving it. So now we have a super beefy, like B16A, capable of withstanding like any kind of turbocharged power that we would want to throw at it. But also it had more displacement. So not only would it be potentially more powerful from the sleeving and having not unsupported sleeves, but having sleeves, but also from it being bigger. So meaning we could run now a bigger turbo if we wanted to, and we could spool that turbo much better because we would have more displacement in doing that, because displacement is one of the things that is definitely going to change the spool rate of any size turbo. So instead of it having a little 1.6 liter and spooling the turbo accordingly for that, we could now have a 1.8 liter, or in our case, it was a 2 liter, spooling that upsized turbo in the same way that we could with the smaller motor and a smaller turbo. So we make more power at the same spool rate, or have more spool rate, depending on how you wanted to adjust it. So this allowed us to do this. And I think that this deck plate came from the guys at, who does all the sleeves? We did some LS stuff with these guys as well. Somebody throw out some names of some sleeve guys. Dart and Sleeves, that's who did it. This is when they were doing they had this offered for B series Hondas way back. And so we took them up on this and did this on our motor, and it turned out to work very well and made lots of power. And it was bigger than they wanted us to be running this thing in the class that we were running it in, and it all worked out fairly well. This motor turned out to be really cool. I thought it was awesome because, really they're going to walk up and look at it and go, the thing that they're checking really is, what does the pad say? I mean, I guess if we could have been clever, we could have, it's fairly easy to measure, but they could have, they wanted to go up and see the B16A pad basically and show that that's a B16 block. And we're like, yeah, it's definitely a B16 block. It is a factory block. It doesn't have any B16 internals in it. It has I think on this one, we ran the LSGS crank, so the 89 millimeter, which the factory crank is. We've made millions of horsepower with those. We didn't millions of horsepower with those. We didn't. I don't ever remember using anything but factory Honda cranks back in the day. And we did put forged rods and pistons in. You could see the pistons. They had valve reliefs so that we could run more camshaft, and we had ported head and all kinds of stuff on here. So it ended up working very well. But this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. This is one example of many that we used back when I was road racing, but also for other things like Bonneville and other classes, where you would apply yourself to make your combination as competitive as you could, all obviously well within the rules, or well within the way that they wrote the rules, maybe not the way that you're particularly interpreting them, but the way the letter of the law says this, and so therefore it doesn't say that I can't do this. And so now I can do this. So you need to apply yourself and then, work around that stuff. Some people are fairly blatant about it and are just doing something in the hopes that they don't get caught, something that's very obvious. For me, there's like a certain level of finesse. I like to be able to, if somebody does see something that I've done, I would like to be able to sit down and argue my case and win that argument or discussion. What a lot of times it turns into an argument. But I would like to be able to win that on logic and tell them, look, here is what your thing says, and here's what we've done. So show me where you obviously ultimately they can then change the rule. And I've had that happen in our road racing class too. So sometimes very expensive lessons for me. In one instance, we were running US touring car, and I was told after we had already run it for 3 races, oh, you can't have threaded body shocks. You have to have a sleeve, like a coilover sleeve on a shock, and then put the spring on. I'm like, why does that matter? There's no like tactical advantage to having a threaded body shock. I mean, we happen to have some. These were Mugen ones, and they worked fairly well. But it doesn't matter that I put sleeves over that. I said, you're going to make me go buy sleeves, go buy new springs, because now the spring has to fit over the new sleeve. And we're going to have to redesign that just so that I can stick something over a shock that I already have, that already has an adjustable collar. You'll allow adjustable collars. You'll allow adjustable ride height. You'll allow coilovers, but they have to be a sleeve that slides over a shock. Yeah, you have to do that. So we went and redid it, and we still won and redid that. And then in 2 races, they said, oh, we're going to allow threaded body shocks. I'm like, I really want to strangle you right now, because all you did was say, hey, Richard, can you go out and spend another few $1,000s for nothing? And so, I wanted to choke the guy out. But we did not. We instead won the championship, and then, so we get the last laugh. But still, those kinds of things, that's an extreme example, but that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. I want to be able to say, hey, look, we did this. It's not like, okay, you have to run a stock cam, and then we just ran an aftermarket skunk cam. Instead, we have to run a stock cam, or one that says it's a stock cam. That kind of thing. At least I can argue that. I'm like, look, if you can cam doctor that thing and show me that it's not a stock cam, that doesn't have exact stock specs, and I'll show you what the stock specs are, and I'll show you the one why this is right, then we can have that discussion. But you can't say that it's not a stock cam, because it absolutely is. Those kinds of things. If it says, hey, it's a skunk 2-stage tuner cam on it, because it says that on it already, you can't get away with that. But you can do your homework and apply yourself and make it right, so that also it's defensible if you ever are in a situation where, hey, look, this is, we're going to protest this. Okay, good luck on that, because that's not going to work out well for you, because not only did I do this, but I'm smart enough to know how to do it, and also to like defend it and win. So that's all part of it. So hopefully your guys' weekend went well, and you guys are ready for, the upcoming week, and see what's going on. Let's see what you guys got going on. We got a, let's see, so we got to get a poll going. Polling. Keep those doggies polling. Let's see. Okay, so in honor of our post tonight, have you ever cheated in racing? I mean, stretch the rules, of course. So we'll see what people have to say. Let's see. What kind of cheating? Well, the kind that wins. Same thing to the people that can't figure out what you did. Yeah, and that's even better. If you do something that's worthwhile and is beyond the level of their tech scrutiny, Good on you. Like the Toyota compressor for the World Rally stuff. Was amazing. Yep, definitely hit the like button. 1 liter Mafia is in the house. Some clever innovations are cheats, while others are innovations. Smokey Unick and Junior Johnson, and there were lots of people back then, especially early on. Like the fewer the rules early on in class racing, because a lot of the rules get upgraded and adapted based on things that they find. They're like, oh yeah, no, that's really good. No, it's totally illegal, but that's really good. We're definitely gonna have to write a rule for that. And then you also know that there was a success there, because if they've written rules for you, then you're like, oh, okay, well, obviously I was doing something right. That's how you know. When you go to the Silver State race, I don't even know if they're still having it. If they are, there's going to be a rule that they will read to you in the driver's meeting that says no in-flight refueling, no stopping and refueling, and that one is mine. Todd's in the house. So he was cheating with that 7/8 scale, 66 Chevelle, and also Donahue and Penske with the lightweight Camaro and driving it back behind the building and then swapping the stickers out. And then they were saying that it was 2 cars. They were weighing the same car and then running 2 different cars. One was a lightweight one. They were doing the switcheroo. Nitrous in your roll cage. Yep, that's happened. When I was kart racing, guys would build up the lobes of the cams with lead. So they got inspection afterwards. The lobes were worn back. Is that a real story? Richard, are you familiar with comp turbos? I've used a couple of them. We tried an oilless one way back and it didn't work, but I think that they're working now. Yeah, Dodgy Brothers, that's it. If it says stock cam, okay, well, then I can run, if you have a B16, I can run a B16B or a B18C5 or, any fancy one-off deal that they happen to do in Japan, all of that. Can't cheat when you have open class. Yeah, like a Formula Libre deal is run what you brung. So you bring whatever you think is going to work and go fastest. Dave, so they wrote a bunch of rules based on what you did in 03. Cool. Yeah, Toyota's fast flow deal. It was the separating coupler deal for their restrictor, and then it snapped shut when it was done. I had to refabricate my cold air intake. I was having a blow off issue every time I built boost. This one time in first or second grade, you cheated in a foot race. Did you like sweep the other guy's leg at the start? Picking up a 2013 5.3 liter tomorrow for future build, 95,000 miles on $400. That's nice. Still going to do a Coyote Big Bang. I don't have any Coyotes right now to do that with. '78 Chevelle. Yep, that was cool. Lots of stuff in NASCAR before they had templates. Yeah, the Penske Donahue thing. I think that's in the Unfair Advantage book that they have. It's a good one. It has a lot of really good stuff. Any plans on doing a nitrous Big Bang or on redoing it? Yeah, I probably should. Dave, thank you very much. Cheating is a strong word. It's more what you can get done in the gray area. Don't break a rule. It's in black and white. No, I'm not talking about that. Like I was talking about, there are guys that just are blatant about it. Saying your 540 big block is a 396. That's all a different thing. That's all craftsmanship, I think. That's for street racing. Oh no, it's a stock. It's a stock Thunderjet motor. No, it's not. B20 with the B16 head. Yep, the LSB Tech stuff. Nitropropylene. We ran propylene oxide, or we tried it, and it didn't seem to gain much. I'm here again, but I'm out shopping the second time for house supplies. Good to see you, man. A class that checks engine sizes make all the spark plugs impossible to get to. Chassis, that's the only cylinder that's a legal bore size. The other 7, yep. Yeah, in a street race, there's no cheating. The gray area is not. Used to run in 200, 250 lap endurance races. Those are cool. That's a lot of laps. You port matched a 1500 CVCC engine and H stock Civic. It ran great without the air cleaner. The air cleaner housing was restricting it just because you port matched it? Run an RP class and NCC stock club. Family got together and built a 70 Corvette. I like those. A Can-Am body kit, the big wide flares and stuff on it. Nice. 15-inch wheels, 500-inch aluminum motor. Good. Yeah, Big Rich, there's a lot of stuff that people never hear about. And that would be the cool thing is if somebody did a book on all of these, you know, did some interviews that were where they didn't mention names and stuff. Camp fuel in the intake manifold for qualifying. Is that the sterno stuff that you're talking about? When I was actively racing Spec Miata, there would definitely be a lot of gray area stuff in that. It was normal to thrive to be tear down legal, might not be intention of the rules, but was the rules actually said, sometimes didn't say. Racing tires in the wrong wheel position in the NASCAR. Saw a YouTube video recently about the different ways they cheated in NASCAR. There's lots of good stuff there, and in Indy and everything else too. I know in off-road racing in the 90s, Ford used to stamp out parts of chrome moly. I don't know what's in the sterno camping fuel stuff. There's a good video. My buddy's uncle is one of the speakers. They go over the Daytona trunk lid and the Pontiacs. We use a spectrometer to check fuel for supercart racing. David Vizard was telling me a really good story about fuel back in one of the things that he did. And it's a really long story, but it was very, very interesting. And it was one of those situations where they he made a change to something, and it affected performance. And then during teardown, he could argue the point that it was, look, this is legal. This is legal according to what you're saying. And then the next year, they rephrased the rule so that what he was doing was not allowed. Everyone knows about NASCAR with the really long fuel lines after they regulated fuel tank size. That actually was done long ago with when Datsun was racing against Alpha in the Trans Am series in the under 2 liter stuff. They did that as well. I remember when I bought my Mustang, my 88 5-liter LX, to go showroom stock racing, because back in the day we're reading about Nelson Ledges and all these things, and I wanted to go showroom stock racing. So I'm like, okay, I need a car, so I'm gonna buy a car, and it's either gonna be a Mustang or a Camaro. And I should have went with a Camaro, because I should have went with a 1LE Camaro, because this was a much better combination. It had way better brakes. It was a little heavier, and the Mustang worked well, but it just would go through brakes every race. But when I went out there, and obviously I thought I made a couple mistakes. One, obviously I was the best driver in the world, which was not the case. The next thing is, mine was stock. I bought it from the dealership and put stickers on it and went out and raced it. Everybody else's showroom stock motor and showroom stock suspension was not that. It was something different. I soon realized that I was outgunned and outdriven. I had a lot to learn. Sterno's isobutane. Okay. Oh, Getaways. He's checking out the all-wheel drive silica air restrictor on the turbo inlets. Yep. The Rally TRD silica turbo. Yep. John, it wasn't when it got hot, I don't think. I think that it was actually under boost. So Dale Earnhardt did that in practice. So he was just playing mind games. So have you ever cheated? So only 45% of people are honest here. So that's good. Example of the Audi Quattro back in the day, changing tire sizes because it fit the rules in the previous year. Did they run Audi ran the Quattros in either in IMSA or in Trans Am? No, I don't think they ran them in Trans Am. I'm thinking it was IMSA. But didn't they run all-wheel drive Audis in those classes? Kind of like road race versions of their rally cars. Yeah, I thought that they got weight added. Yeah, they did, because they had. I mean, it's nice. I remember watching the guys running the I think it was Audi in World Challenge too, and coming off of the corner, they could put a lot of power down because all-wheel drive stuff is nice. Same thing with when I was racing against the Archer brothers with their Eagle Talons, all-wheel drives. They had the same thing, and obviously in the rain, it's definitely a benefit. I want to run a stock lift long duration cam in my K24 with a stock intake runner. Why do you want to run long duration with a stock lift with a long intake runner? James, they ran both. They ran Trans Am and IMSA. Usually duration with the camshaft increases the RPM, the engine speed where the thing wants to make peak power. And you're done. Sorry, the 400. And what your recommendation be for more compression milled deck? You could do that. Different pistons, you could do that. Although I don't know, Sailor, I don't really know which one of those things I would choose because I haven't looked into the 400 to see what options I have. We just used what we had available, and it was, I think the pistons were down in the hole pretty far. I think we used, I want to say we used like a 351 piston or something in it. So I don't know what rod lengths are available for that, and then what combination of rod length and like piston pin position. I don't know what compression height. I don't know what that combination is, and I don't know. Also, you could look at offset grinding it, and then obviously milling the deck too. I just don't know which one of those combinations would be better. The thing I'd be worried about too much on milling the block is it, or milling the deck, is it then you start just like milling the head, you run into intake fitment things, and if you go too much. And so you can't, if the thing's 100 down in the hole, it's better to try to fix that with the right combination of rod length change or pin height. Can nitrous be a replacement displacement? Yes. If you launch with nitrous off the line, it makes the motor a lot bigger. The Alderman is the guy from Pro Stock, but they or there may have been other guys that you're talking about. I don't know about in the fuel tank. They had them in the battery boxes, in their batteries. Cheater cams like an oval track rule, limited lift of 390, 410, but 250 at 50, 107 LSA. Yeah, if you look at a lift rule cam, typically they're going to be they're going to have lots of duration. Bob Glidden, his bottle in the oil pan. Have you ever tried acid pouring or acid etching? I haven't ever done it. I've seen heads that have had it done, and I've seen heads sitting out in the weather after that's been done. to rust them up a little bit to change the finish on them, but I've never tried it. In your experience, can you make a motor knock the 85? Yes, very easily. Or it'll just bash out the bearing first and start to lose power. No, you really don't want it to do that either. But yeah, you can get it to detonate fairly easily. And then what happens with that detonation is going to depend on the duration of it, like how long it's happening, and then how aggressive it is. It could easily break a ring land. And you could do that and hurt power in that cylinder before you ever damage a bearing. Pulling another 5.3 at the wrecking yard with a two-wheel drive trans for the Cutlass. Bad front wheel bearing, so burnouts up to fourth gear confirmed. The trans is good. That's good. That's a good way to test it. Yeah, Sykes is recommending Sailor check the T. Myers guy. He does the 400M strokers and stuff. You ever tested a 4.7 swap? Yes, that's been tested, and it doesn't do anything to power. Nitrous bottles on the fire suits. The Sneaky Pete's were fairly common in a lot of classes. Mini Dwarf Racing, they spec stock cams, certain cranking compression, no porting, but valve job is okay. Would milk the head with a single layer 10,000s gasket. What kind of head, what kind of piston to head clearance did you have? Hide the compression with cam timing. You could do that. Ported behind the valve. So in the bowl. I remember hearing about stock car guys dipping the cars, and yeah, acid dipping the whole car. That's possible too. I don't know how long they left them in there relative to how much material was removed for that. The thing that would concern me is there has to be structure for the thing to handle, right? Maybe not as important that on oval tracks, but I still think it would be. So, John, you put a magnet in the, oh, so the gate swings forward. So you put a magnet in it so that when the gate swung forward, and the gate was metal, so as the gate swung forward, it would pull your car forward. So it gave it a launch. That's good. I bought a small block Chevy that holes drilled in the rear China wall. I said it was for a hidden nitrous system. It is good. If you look in the nitrous books that I have, I think the Superpower book is the one that it's in. You can see guys have plumbed complete nitrous systems like in the lifter valley, but it's all attached to the bottom side of the intake manifold. It looks really cool. And then you run the feed lines, the fuel and the nitrous lines out to like a bulkhead fitting, or if you're sneaky, you run it out through a vacuum hose or a fuel hose, or disguise it as that basically, and so that nobody is kind of the wiser. But they they know when you hit the nitrous. I've never tested a Chrysler 4.7. Yeah, Sneaky Pizza for qualifying, because you could just have it in your suit and then you just hook it up and make the blazing pass. Third gear overdrive at Pocono. NASCAR says fourth has to be 1-to-1. So someone's like, I'll put overdrive in third gear position. That would be good. Because unless they were doing a restart, there's not going to be any time when you're racing through the gears, right? 2014 Silverado 5.3. It's my daily. I've been thinking of putting a TSP cam, stage 2 or 3. What's the difference with a high lift and a low lift? One of the things you got to think about on a stage 2 or stage 3 cam is you're going to have to put a converter in it. So think about that. I would not recommend something that big unless you're willing to put a converter in it too. Yeah, Mike, I've seen that. I've seen guys get a little plungy with with the cut there, and that works. High-speed Zamboni driving, that would be awesome. Put the transponder on the front bumper at Laguna Seca. Yeah. Seen guys do that for qualifying sometimes. They're planning to do a big bang with the Barra. I'd like to do it on the NA one that we have. Dropping lead weights off the car into the track. That's not good. That's bad news. Richard, have you ever tested the Holley cross ram like the one that Matt has? Yeah, I have a cross ram video up. It's not under boost, but it's the same thing happens. It's really good. It has really good low speed response. It's one of, if not the only manifold that I've ever tested that made more low speed power than the stock truck manifold, and it makes more power on top too. We also had a swirled tailpipe and aimed it away from the decimeter. We had to do that when I ran at Laguna Seca with the Civ or with the Del Sol. We had to, they had a decibel limit at Laguna Seca, so we went through a lot of iterations of the exhaust to make sure that we didn't lose any power, and then tried various mufflers. But we did the same thing. Basically, we aimed it away from. We're like, okay, well, what side is the meter going to be on? And so we aimed it away from that. But it really, in our case, we got the exhaust system down, so we didn't really lose any power. How did the walk with Milo go? We got to see it. He did see lots of squirrels, so he loves going up there, and it's basically hills and trails and all kinds of stuff. And so and sometimes we see deer up there and coyote, and there are skunks up there. I'm sure there's people have said that there are mountain lions up there, although I've never seen anything. But lots of other like little critters and stuff. But he loves just going up there and being outside and getting to go for a walk and being with his family, and if he sees a squirrel, he gets to go chase it. Building a Gasser 64 F100, very cool. 460 big block. Stay with a C4 with a gear vendor's overdrive, or build up an E40D. If you have a gear vendors already, I would stay with that. But if you're looking at price options, I think that the E4 is probably going to be less money. Some days are open noise days at Laguna, few and far between. Yeah, ours wasn't. Our race weekend was limited. I forgot what the decibel reading was, but we actually ran 2 mufflers on ours. How do you determine what wastegate to use for 1,000 horsepower 7875? I would put a 60 millimeter wastegate on if you're using a single. I do like Laguna Seca. Willow Springs is also good. I've raced there a few times. I don't like Willow Springs as much as I like Laguna Seca. I actually like the short track at Willow more than I like the big track. And I do like Road America a lot. I raced at Road Atlanta, which I also liked, but I liked it when they, in the old configuration, when they had the gravity well. and a race at Sears Point in its old configuration, and then in its NASCAR configuration. They all have something unique to offer. I've raced at Button Willow and Thunder Hill. Lime Rock. Lime Rock is not one of my favorites. It's short, but it was cool to get out there and do that. Raced at Watkins Glen, which is cool because it has a very kind of a cool history. Yeah, the Streets of Willow it's really good for. I've done some instruction there, and it's really good for teaching people, and it's slow enough that people don't get intimidated, because the big track at Willow, especially any kind of car that has any kind of power, you're going really fast, and that scares a lot of people. And so if you're trying to help get them up to speed, let's get them through the turns first, and then try to teach them about braking and stuff later on. So Admiral, you're gonna go take it for a test ride. Let us know how it does. Love NASCAR at Riverside. I never saw any races there. We ran in the streets with Eddie Lawson. Eddie knew how to get around, or knows how to get around. I've only ever done lemons at Willow. I did one at Thunder Hill. And then we also did an endurance race that was not a lemons race, but we did an endurance race we did one in an MX-3, in a Mazda MX-3, which was really fun. And then also I did one in an Oldsmobile Achieva, quad 4 powered Olds Achieva. The shift cable broke and stuck in fourth gear, so I was stuck in fourth gear the whole time. And about the racing around, the guy's like, you're going slow, but you're really consistent. I'm like, yeah, because I only have one gear. They're like, what are you talking about? I said, well, there's only fourth gear. I said, I can't shift the transmission anymore. It's broke. I said, the shift cable's obviously broke. And they're like, there's no way you were doing that. I said, go try to shift the transmission and tell me if it's working. They're like, oh, no, it can't. It won't come out of fourth gear. That's what I said. They're like, you were going around this whole thing in fourth gear? Yeah, you just do what you have to do. My first track day was at Mid Ohio. I've never been to Mid Ohio. We did a street course. I've done the Long Beach Grand Prix. We did a street course in Dallas. What else have we done in the middle there? Detroit? No, not Detroit. Three Rivers I've done. Moseport I've done. Shannonville, I think, is the name of the one up there. I think that's all of them. No, Arizona too. Both. Firebird, I think, is one of them. And then PIR also. Formula One race is coming in downtown Las Vegas. I've raced in Reno, where part of the race went through the Porte Cochere in the Reno Hilton, which is, they set up a road course there. It was very, very cool. Budds Creek, Maryland, Highway 9 between Saratoga and Skyline Boulevard. Richard, did you ever run the outside course? Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I've run the inside course at Vegas and the outside one. I've run the outside one way more than the inside one. And also the one in Fontana also. I ran a race at Fontana in the Del Sol, and we ran it against a bunch of like IT 510s or something like that. It was pretty cool. I did as a matter of fact, on the outside course in Las Vegas, I did a triathlon of motorsport. So we had to run the same car on the road course, on an oval course, and I think at the drag strip. And so you took the winning, I think it was, and I think the winner was based on who had the lowest combined elapsed time of those 3 events. And then I got to do it in my car, which is in my Mustang. And then I also, because I was one of the media guys, they set it up because the track had a school there where they had Formula 2000s. And so we got to do it also with Formula 2000s, which was really fun. I'm in Montana, fishing, shooting, and dirt bikes. That's all good stuff. Especially if you got a Trail 90 or a Trail 70 or a Trail 50 or anything that runs on trails. Francisco, Mexico City's. So are you telling everybody in Mexico City about coming on? You need to get them all here. So you need a shop of your own in your own in your own yard. That would be nice. It'd be nice to just walk outside and like go start dyno testing or start building stuff. Yeah, if we could get like 1 million people here, that would be fantastic. Or just tell them all to watch the videos. So how's our poll doing? 59% saying no, 41% saying yes. So what I'm going to do is we're going to end this poll. I'm going to put up another poll. That's right. It's a 2-poll night because it's a weekend. We're going to do it up. So we're going to start a new poll. So the new poll is, have you ever raced? This should be a lot easier. There's a channel that has a super stock 5-liter with all stock parts, intake heads, cam, stock lift, long duration cam, car made somewhere in the 400s. I'd have to ask Evan what his super stock, I don't know if it was super, it might have been super stock. He set a national record in a stock motor, but I think his was configured to be a Cobra motor and not the lower horsepower 5-liter deal. 3 Dog Night. How far are we from practical hybrid swaps? It would be cool. It would be cool if I could go put like the equivalent of a starter motor in the car somehow and attach it and gain 100 horsepower. That'd be like adding nitrous or something. I would be down with that. Even if it would only work for a short period, like one acceleration or whatever, I'd be okay with that. And then it has to recharge. That would be kind of cool. I would accept that kind of technology as long as it was easy to hook up and it didn't cost a lot of money, and then I could use it a whole bunch. Autocross counts as racing. Whatever kind of racing your interpretation of racing is, it counts as racing. I don't care about legal, illegal, whatever. Have you ever raced is the question. I'm wondering if a long duration cam would provide good power for a K24 and stock intake and head. I don't know why you're mismatching the things that you're wanting to mismatch there. My Fox would be a Cobra or better, but I still have the HO computer and 19-pound injectors. 68 Camaro stock motor, tubbed out. Yeah, it went 1170s. No, not official, unofficial, whatever your definition of race is. You're looking, you're putting too much into it. One class I did ask for only factory equipped flex fuel cars. Can use the 85 tunes. I made a new sticker for the fuel door. Hey, that's a workaround. There are electric superchargers that will add 75 horsepower to the pulley system. I'd like to see that. Drag race motorcycles, time attack Corvettes, autocross Corvettes, STI and Mazda speed Miatas. Nice. Road racing is very expensive and it is very time consuming, and it goes through a lot of parts. It goes through way more parts than drag racing does because you're using them more. Sometimes you break stuff, drag racing motors, but think about drag racing and then turning left and then turning right and then stopping and braking and then turning the other way and then coming back around and then turning and then going over a hill and then going around another turn and then braking really hard and then going around another turn and then coming back and doing it all again and then doing that for an hour. The drag race go-kart, that's good. Go-karts are hard on you. "24 hours of lemons is racing." Yes. It was way harder than SCCA racing. Uh, 3D, what would your main upgrades be for 4V on high boost 15 and up? I don't know what motor you have, and I don't know what configuration you have, and I don't know what you're using it for, and so I need more data. Northern Ninja, just anybody that pulls up in a truck is ready to go. That's good. That's how it should be. Which is better for more horsepower on an LY6, Trickflow 225 or 255 heads, and the 459 cam versus stage 4 cam? I don't know the answer to all of those different things. I've never compared a Trickflow rec port head to a Trickflow cathedral port head, and that I've never compared those two cams either, and I've certainly never compared all of the iterations of those four things. Yeah, brakes get eaten up. I always went through rotors. The pads would kind of work. I never went through rear brakes. The drums on the Mustang, they would last forever. They were just like basically there for the ride. But fronts would eat up. I would eat them up every weekend. The pads and rotors would have to be replaced. The Cam, the poll question is just a yes or no question, but all of that stuff is good. Drag race Hondas and various GM, Land Speed, Cone Dodger. Starter motor's only a few horsepower. That's true. I bet I was being facetious. We were just trying to make a point. Salvador, I was extremely slow when I was road racing, but it's fun. It is fun. It's fun going out there and learning. It's fun. You know, they have now like club events and you can go out on weekends where guys rent tracks. And the cool thing is on all the ones that I've been to, whether it's a Miata day or a Volkswagen day or a Camaro or Corvette or Mustang or whatever it is, those guys will get together and they'll have a track, an open track day, and you get to go out. And the cool thing is they usually have some fairly good guys that will also ride around and teach you how to drive. And if they're decent guys and you go and they go out with you, they usually can knock a few seconds off just by sitting there talking to you. And so that's, you've just gained a lot of speed by doing that. So if you go out there and you go to those track days, let you check your ego at the door, man. Just listen to those guys. If they're good guys, See if what they're telling you makes sense. Usually it will. There's a lot of really good drivers out there. There's more good drivers. There's fewer good drivers and good teachers, because being able to relate what you're doing the way that you should be relating it to bringing up a new guy is different than just being able to drive fast. But if you go out and you're driving around and you're not really understanding everything that's happening, or which turn is most important, or where you should be braking, where you should be turning in, all of those things, a decent guy can help you do that. And even if you get none of the turns right when you go out, and he gets you so that you have one of the turns right, that's probably in your case going to be a second. It's going to be a lot. So now imagine what you could do if you put that together for the rest of the turns, because the thing that he just taught you on one of the turns is going to apply on at least a few others, probably all of them. But make sure that you listen and learn, and you'll pick up time. You don't need new tires, you don't need a blower, you don't need a turbo or nitrous. You just need to go out and listen to what the guy's saying. When I was in SCCA, started at A Sedan. I did some of that and SSGT with an 80 Mustang. Oh, but your best friend died? I'm sorry to hear that, man. Almost enticing you to dial in some more rear brake bias. We didn't have that ability in short stock racing. .3D 4.6 Cobra stock ECU twin turbo 61 millimeter stock Cobra intake, C heads, Mach 1 cam, forged internals, drag race only. So I'm going to scroll back and try to remember what your question was. And I'm scrolling. What would your main upgrades be for 4x and high boost for 15 and up? I think you already just listed off the upgrades, right? I would definitely have ring gap in it. Did you mention that? If it's drag racing only, forged internals or something to think about, but definitely at the very least ring gap, head studs, MLS gaskets, the right size injector. It sounded like you had maybe the right size fuel pump, and definitely intercooler. And if hopefully you're running on E85. Working on doing brake decking for my girlfriend's WRX, the 4-piston fronts to help this weekend. Yeah, it's definitely beneficial if you can keep the brakes at a kind of stabilized temperature. If a long duration short lift cam will make a 5-liter HO produce over 500 horsepower and make a Mustang run 11, then you should produce some extra horsepower in a K24 if you keep stock revs to 7,000 RPM. Sure, you could use that logic and think that it's going to work. When one is a low RPM 5-liter V8 with super long runner intakes, and one is a K24 that's not that. It's a 4-valve motor. Would certain hybrid cars or starter alternator units be a good place to get electric horsepower assist? Some of them may have that, right? Drag racing Oldsmobile 98 against an 87 Caprice. That doesn't matter. It doesn't. If one of them is running 1750s and the other one's running 1740s, it's still a race. That when I was out, I can't remember if it was the first Silver State or the second or third or something. There was a guy out there in a Mini Cooper and another guy out there in a Lotus Elan, which is definitely one of my favorite cars. Very, very cool. But they couldn't have been going more than 100 miles an hour because that was all that they had. But they passed each other like 30 or 40 times because they would just get in the draft and there's lots of straightaways there. Oh, and then the one guy would just like, it would take like miles for it to happen, but then he'd pass the other guy. And then he'd get enough draft and then he'd go by the other guy. Those guys had more fun at 100 miles an hour than we all had going 150 or 200 or whatever the other guys were going. Those guys had a blast, and that's racing. We told those guys, dude, that is like so awesome. Those are the guys that when you're at the driver's meeting, you're like, dude, I'm definitely buying you a drink. How much do you decide? How do you decide how much ring gap and plug range when boosting a motor? We put if you're running a boosted motor, we run 7 thousandths or so, 7 thousandths ring gap per inch of bore. That's the math. And then for spark plug gap, we run 19 thousandths on a plug gap when we're running a boosted motor. Both of those will work really well. I have not gap rings. I'm running really low boost to start to see how it runs on 9.8 compression. On time ready, I'm throwing in 18 cc dish pistons on ring gap, running 8-pound injectors and dual fuel pumps. So all of that, I mean, it sounds like you know what you're doing there. Bro, he's like, I'm here for the save, and then he got down. Not a fan of bracket racing, but I've seen 14, 15-second cars with decent pots at events. I have to admit, the one time that I've been to a national like Top Fuel event at Pomona, as we were watching the fuel cars go, and it was very, very cool. And then right after that, after the fuel cars went, they had like a celebrity race where they were all running like, I think that they were Olds Calais or something. And so they were running like 1470s or 1480s or something, maybe even mid 15s in those cars. But they were going for all that they were worth. And the racing was like, if you get two people, because I think that these were like pro celebrity racers. So some of the guys really knew what they were doing. Some of the people didn't. So they would bog it or miss a shift or whatever. And then it wouldn't be close. But guys that really knew what they were doing, I mean, the racing was like, you know, it was like a fender or something or a bumper. So it was really good racing. But after you watch a fuel car go by in 4 seconds or 5 seconds or whatever, and then you watch these guys run 15s or whatever they're running, it's like it's forever. You're like, dude, it's taking you forever to get down the track. What the heck's going on? It's good stuff though. Whoever the individual is asking about your camshaft, you can try more duration in your camshaft. But the low lift thing is the thing that's throwing me off. I don't know why you want to do one and not the other. What you should be concentrating on is you should put camshafts or a camshaft, if it's one camshaft, or multiple camshafts in that are going to improve the power. There are camshafts that are not stock camshafts that you can put in that will improve the power. It will improve the power NA, even with the intake manifold that you have. And then if you're thinking about adding boost and it added power NA, then it will add power under boost. Have you ever done an air-to-air and air-to-water intercoolers at the same time in series? Would be neat to have a street capable car that could ice down. Well, for that to be able to happen, you'd have to use the air-to-air first, and then bring 100 or 150 degrees out of it, and have it be lower, and then use ice water. And the ice water thing by itself, if it's big enough, is almost going to do both of those. I want to run two intercoolers, twin intercooled, and we'll do something like that. But we might run ice water through both of them. They might be both air to waters. Currently rebuilding my O3 Cobra 4 valve, trying to decide on good compression ratio while using a larger PD blower. Well, what fuel are you using? If they're following the top fuel cars, everything else seems like they're racing MGs. It was. I mean, it seemed like forever, and they were still quad fours, which was cool, but it was not not top fuel. Bro, and y'all said Messiah would never come in handy. I was on a two-piece suit, and I kind of forgot that I'm not running. Did you run supercar against the E34? I don't know what that is. You're willing to go E85 on the Cobra? Then I think I would run 9 or 10 to 1. Liquid nitrogen. We thought about doing that, but it's going to be really hard for you to process and pump liquid nitrogen through anything. It would be great to see FE dynos. I agree. I would like to run one. Yeah, liquid nitrogen would certainly be cold, but logistically it would be problematic. Yeah, I don't have any. Someone was mentioning drifting. I don't have any. I don't have any experience in drifting. I've never done that. I've always been growing up road racing cars. You could catch slides and stuff, and we did that at Bondurant with the slide car because they had it on the wheels that you could jack the front, jack the back up. You could make it understeer, make it oversteer. You could make it not touch at all and slide everywhere. So you had no control, which is very cool. But I didn't. Drifting wasn't my thing. Not drifting was always much faster around the track than drifting. Snow drifting. Ice racing would be fun. I was invited back to do ice racing one time, but I couldn't go when these guys, it was like a last minute deal, but that would have definitely been fun. Yeah, Dan, I'm wondering if you got it too cold and you were using something like E85 or even methanol, if that couldn't become problematic. Like to see drift racers try skid plate racing. We used to do skid plate stuff way back with we'd do it with front wheel drive cars and just put the serving trays under the rear wheels and then lock the emergency brake and then just go do that stuff. It's pretty fun. One more minute. So we're going to close out our second poll. Have you ever raced? 87% saying yes, 13% saying no. And we'll close out our poll. With slowly ramping in timing on a smaller Ford, make it able to handle more power before splitting block. Maybe. I don't know, or I think that the timing you would want to ramp that in according to if it's boosted, and maybe ramping the boost in would make more of a bigger difference in power. I enjoy foot brake racing at Maple Grove. I think that that's kind of cool because that's more street oriented. Stock 5-liter short block, Pro Max 180 heads, 24-pound injectors, Explorer intake, camshaft. 274 would work fine. It might be that the Explorer intake, yeah, you're probably not going to be up near the limit of the 24-pound injectors. Just make sure you have enough fuel pressure in it. The 24-pound injectors are about 400 horsepower injectors. Compressed air supercharging can be very cold. Yep. It was in the data logging that they did when they ran it at West Tech. Driving skills in snow came in handy in Buffalo. I actually learned to drive in the snow on my motorcycle. Actually, here in Northern California, we got snow up in the local mountains, and I had a CL100 Honda, which is a street bike, and my buddy had I think his was a 175 Yamaha. This was an Enduro, and we went up riding up in the hills. And there was lots of snow everywhere, but it taught you how to, when the back end goes around, taught you how to counter steer and do all that stuff. So coming down was really an adventure, especially given the fact that we're coming down on roads that have, blue sky on the other side. Not blue sky, but enough that where you would fall and get badly damaged. So you got to learn how to drift. It was kind of cool. The compressor supercharging is really, really cool. The problem that they have is the valving and stuff, and the control for that, circuitry for that is really pretty expensive. But the result is amazing. I mean, they were getting 100% gains at like a 50% increase in pressure. So it was and they were using full factory timing and using like 87 octane. So it's like through all the rules, just like out the window. It's really cool. What's the difference between 3-bar and 4-bar GT40 heads? I don't know. Does anybody know that? Is one a P head and one's a GT40 head? Could you use compressed air to lower the temperature in the fuel rail? How would you do that? The compressed air needs to be uncompressed for it to bring temperature down. Otherwise, the compressed air is going to be hotter, right? It's a good guess, huh? P head versus a normal GT40 head. And if I was recommending one, I wouldn't recommend the P head. I would recommend the regular GT40 heads. And on that note, it's time to go. It's late. I've been here a long time. Time to go. Thank you guys all for showing up. I will see you all tomorrow morning. I'm working on another video, and that will go up tomorrow as well. Busy, busy, busy. Thank you guys all for showing up. I'll see you all tomorrow.